Alright traders, welcome back to another video. This one is going to be a special one. I've been waiting to do a video like this. I think it's going to be the first of its kind. So what we're going to do in this video is go around, well, this series, we're going to go around and purchase some of the most well-known Forex gurus, maybe even stock gurus, maybe any kind of guru that sells signals, and we're going to test the signals out to see if they work. We're going to back test them, and I'm going to show you guys exactly if it's worth your money or not. So our first guru is going to be Mamba FX. So he is probably the most well-known signal service provider on YouTube as of right now. I'm going to try to keep it as unbiased as possible in this video, but I would say it's safe to assume that he probably looks like the most stereotypical guru on the site right now. He shows the Gucci bag, he's got the i8, he has several cars, he's got even a little bit of money right there, and he shills his signals pretty much every single video. He hustles it hard. So, I mean, he's definitely fitting the guru stereotype. A lot of people will probably say, no, he's not a guru because he hates IML. And let me tell you something. There's this new breed of gurus out there that are basically anti-guru gurus. Just because somebody hates on IML doesn't mean that they are a trustworthy source. But we're about to find out today. So this is exactly the point of this video. I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to get into the signal service. We're going to buy it right here, and I'm going to be back testing them. He claims to have a 70% win rate, so we at least want to see a 70% win rate, but even if he does achieve a 70% win rate, what we really want to see is the average risk to reward per trade. If you have a high win rate and your losers are much bigger than your winners, you can still be losing money over time. Let's just stop talking and let's get into it. So risk only 1 to 3%. Yeah, okay. All right, we got it. No refunds, no sharing content. Do not over leverage. So obviously, I'm not going to be showing all the signals that he's sent just for legal purposes. I don't know if this guy is willing to sue people over stuff like this. So I'm not going to actually show you, unfortunately, his signals. But what I will be doing is back testing them myself. And unfortunately, you're just gonna have to take my word for it that these are the signals that he's putting out. Okay, so it looks like it was a success. All right, so here we are. We have just bought the Mamba FX VIP. And as you can see, he has 3,767 members in here, all paying $40 a month. Let's just do that math really quick. That is 3,767 times 40. He is making $150,000 a month selling signals. So these better be the best darn signals we've ever seen in our entire trading careers. All right, so now the fun part begins. I'm going to go back into all of the charts that he is posting on all of these signals. I'm going to manually backtest each one of the signals and see whether they would have been winners or losers and by how much. So cue the time lapse. All right, so as much as I would have loved for it to take 30 seconds like in that time lapse, it actually took me almost 2 days to complete all of what you see in front of you. Now, before you click away, because you see all of these numbers and it might scare you, it's all going to make sense. And let me just say that these results are definitely better than expected, but that does not mean he's in the clear yet, because there are some questions that still need to be answered. So in the Telegram chat, he usually sends out signals with multiple take profit levels, which makes it a little bit more difficult to calculate all of what you see in front of me here. So I had to come up with a solution on how I was going to actually measure his performance. So on this left side is the pips. Now you may be wondering, why is there 16 and 44, 0 or negative 43? It's because, like I said, he changes the take profit levels or gives multiple take profit levels on every single trade. Now we can't just measure his performance in pips because, like I said earlier, he has multiple take profit levels, and he himself says that you should take half of your position off at the first take profit level. So if you take half of your position off at the first take profit level and then it goes to the second take profit level, well, guess what? You're only going to make half the profit as you would have if you kept the entire position on. So measuring in pips may be a little misleading because because the value of, say, the first 10 pips is not going to be the same as the value of the next 20 pips. So the solution that I came up with this is to track how many take profits are actually hit before price goes back down to the entry point. So if it's a 0, it means it's a loss. It never hit any take profits. If it's manual, it means that he himself typed in the chat, close this position at this amount of profit or loss. So it's just a manual trade. And then if it's a 1, it hit 1 take profit level. And if it's a 2, it hit 2 take profit levels. So basically what this means is that if it's a 0, it's a loss. If it's a 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pip value and divide it by 2. Because if it's a 1, it means it only hit the first take profit level and then went back down to break even. So you only made half of the money you should have made. If it's a 2, it means we've hit 2 take profit levels. And the solution I came up with this is that you just take both the TP1 amount of pips and the TP2 amount of pips. So in this case, 16 was the first profit level, and then 44 pips was the second profit level. And you take the average of those two numbers, and that gives you the actual pip value and how much you would have made in actual pips according to your position size. Okay, so now that you understand that, we can actually start digging in and digesting some of this data. So this was between September 1st and January 18th. So it's over the span of 5 months. So over the course of these 5 months you see here, we managed to get 172 total pips of profit, which is okay. It's not crazy. It's not horrible. Obviously, at least you're making money. Then what I did is I just divided that number by 5 to get the monthly amount of pips that we averaged. So it was right around 34 pips a month, which is, again, right around break even for most traders probably. And then I multiplied that by 12 to get 412 pips yearly. So this is basically what we're projected to make each year in this signal group, 412 pips, which is for some traders, 1 trade. Now, it's not the only way that we can measure his performance. We can also measure it in theoretical percent returns, and that's exactly what I did right here. So the way this is calculated is pretty simple. I started off by using what he recommended, which is 1% risk per trade. So every loss that we take is going to be worth negative 1%. So basically, every 0 you see here is equal to negative 1%. So the number 1 represents a 0.5% gain, and then the number 2 represents a 0.75% gain. Because if you're going to make 0.5% profit on the first take profit level, you're going to then have to sell half your position, and then the next take profit level is only going to be worth half the amount, or 0.25 of 0.5. So in total, there were right around 58 trades, which is not the biggest amount of trades that I could have tested, but it would have taken much too long for me to test anymore. So this is all of the data we could have collected. And in my opinion, I think this is probably the fairest circumstances we could have given him, because on some of his signals, he even gave 3 take profit levels, which we can only assume to mean that he wants to sell half at the first take profit level, move his stop loss to break even, and then sell the rest in quarters, which honestly, from the experience that I've had doing these signals, I think that would have given actually worse results. So I actually gave him better results by only sticking to taking half off at the first take profit level and then the second half at the second take profit level. So the results. So if you were to risk 1% per trade in the last 5 months in this signal group, you would have made 8%. If you were to risk 2%, you would have made 16%. If you were to risk 3% per trade, you would have made 23%. So just like the pips return, what I did is I just divided these numbers by 5 to give you a theoretical monthly return, and this is what you get. If you're risking 1%, you're going to make 1.6%, 2% you're going to make 3.1%, and 3% you're going to make 4.7% per month. Now that may sound pretty good, but there are some things here that do draw some red flags, and some of the things that he's said in the past that don't really add up with his story and don't add up with these results. So these numbers don't look all that bad, but remember these two numbers here, you're risking 2 to 3% per trade, which is considered pretty risky for these kind of returns. And if we go to the hypothetical money returns, which is where this gets a little bit interesting, you'll see that with an $100,000 account, he's expected to make $18,000 a year with the 1% risk tolerance, $37,000 a year with the 2% risk tolerance, and $55,000 per year with the 3% risk tolerance. Now remember that this is with an $100,000 account. Now in the time that I had to research, I never actually found a video of him showing his account balance, but if I recall, I think I watched a video where he said it was under 100,000, maybe even over 100,000. So because we don't know, let's just assume he had an $100,000 account balance. Even if that were the case and he was trading the max risk tolerance that he suggests, he's only making around $55,000 a year. And even if he had a $1 million account balance, which is pretty big, and I don't think he has an $1 million account balance. He would be making 6 figures with the 1%. He would be making 300,000 with the 2%. He would be making 500,000 with the 3%. And I don't think he's risking 3%. I think he's risking right around 1 to 2% per trade. So these are the most likely outcomes with even a $1 million account. Now, I know these numbers may seem pretty good, but I'm going to explain why I'm a little bit skeptical here and how I think he's still a little bit suspicious. But I will admit that these are better results than I expected to see. So we had a total of 58 trades in those 5 months, and surprisingly, he did have a win rate of 71%. But like I mentioned earlier in the video, this really does not mean much. So one of the red flags that I noticed is that his first take profit level is almost always a 0.6 to 1 risk to reward, which is really, really bad. This basically means that for every dollar he risks, he only makes 60 cents back. Now, obviously, when your target is much closer than your stop loss in relation to your entry point, you're going to be winning a lot more. So to see a win rate of 70% isn't all that surprising because his risk to reward is inverted. He's winning a lot, but he's not making much when he wins. We can actually see the negative side effects of this in this chart right here. So this is his percent return mapped out in a chart, and here are his pips mapped out in a chart. And what we can expect to see when we have a low risk to reward and a high win rate is usually massive drawdowns, meaning when you hit a losing streak, because you're risking so much more than when you win, your drawdowns or the amount you start to drop is going to be much more exaggerated than the amount when you start to increase. So even though we saw some really consistent results right in here, almost half of it was disintegrated in one bad month because he ran into a losing streak right around December to January. And you may be saying, oh, well, December is the worst month to trade, so obviously he's going to trade bad. But to be fair, we also included some of his best months. And who knows, maybe if I tested a little bit further, you could see that the results back here weren't all that great. So I don't even know if maybe I started testing right when he had one of the best runs he's seen. But in this scenario, we'll just give it to him because we got some of his best performance here. I saw a lot of the members were talking about how this is probably one of their best months. And then December and January, he's sort of taken a little bit of a nosedive. So now let me show you why there are still some red flags here. So I have some notes from some of his videos, and you can actually go and check these timestamps that I put. I forgot to do it for this one, but so far he said he spent $400,000 on cars. At least that's what he said he's lost in trading in his cars. So we don't know the exact value of the amount of cars he's bought, but he's definitely said that he's spent $400,000 in losses this year. Now, if we take a look at the results that we've gotten here, you can see that pretty much a $400,000 loss this year would not be pretty good for his bank account. Even in the best case scenario of him making $558,000 every year, he's not going to be spending $400,000 of that on cars. So that doesn't really add. He's also said that he shoots for a 10 to 15% return per month, but we can see that even in the best case scenarios, he's only going to be making right around 4.7% a month. I don't know how he can possibly make 10 to 15% because that doesn't even come close to the expected return of even the highest risk tolerance he says you should do. He also says that when he discovered divergence, he had an 84% win rate, and you can see that in this video right there. But then when we take a look at his win rate, it is a 71% win rate, which is still decent, but why was he lying in that video saying that he has an 84% win rate? I think that Mamba FX is basically relying on simple probabilities, and I wouldn't think this if his risk to reward differed on every trade, but because he keeps it at a steady 0.6 for the first target and then 1.4 on the second target, it leads me to believe that he's doing the following. The first target is mainly theirs to ensure that he has a high win rate. This way he can keep telling his followers that he wins all the time. And people in the chat will consistently be seeing targets being hit, and they'll think that they're going to be making lots of money because of course you're going to be making lots of money if you win a lot. That's how most traders think. So the first take profit is to ensure consistent wins. The second take profit is to make it seem like you're winning even more. If the second take profit is hit, he basically gets to send another message into the channel that more profit has been hit, and it looks like you've been even more profitable. In reality, it seems like the system he's using is pretty risky and at best gives you minimal profits. Sure, he may be winning 70% of the time for the most part, but if he hits an even bigger losing streak than we've seen here, which is already a pretty big one, then we can see massive losses of profit. I think if I were to keep testing this system, it would probably be somewhere around break even to slightly profitable in the long term. And even though that's still pretty good, I have to hand it to him, that's still better than most traders. It's not what he claims it to be. So Mamba FX on the guru scale, I would probably give him a 5 out of 10. Even though we can pretty much confirm that he's lying about a lot of things and he does charge for signals that really aren't all that great, at the very least, he's profitable and he told the truth about his win rate, which is, again, not that important, but it still was statistically found to be right, so I have to give him that one. So that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you want to see more videos like this one, which cost me money to do, I would really appreciate it if you can go donate on my Patreon. Every penny in that Patreon will basically support this channel and will be reinvested into more videos just like this, and you get some cool benefits as well. So if you want to check that out, link in the description down below. And if you want to join our free Discord, links in the description as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.